Historically, the father is the protector of his children. He is the source of security, the refuge from all the troubles of the big outside world, the one man to lean on. On the other hand, the father sometimes takes an over-defensive attitude. Suddenly he takes the "my boy can do no wrong" attitude. Somehow the idea is that the blood tie justifies wrong. But what ought to be the motive behind a father's confidence in his child? As a case in point, Joe Summers has to come to grips with this problem in his daughter's school. The school day is just ending and the students are all on their way home.
Got homework to do.
Oh, don't worry about it. Do it during study hall tomorrow.
Yes, I know, but...
Look at your locker. Have you got a library in there?
A very small library, maybe. Oh, no, and it's all just been laid out on the floor.
Oh, brother.
No.
Hey, where'd you get this swell purse?
What do you mean? I'm carrying my purse. Oh.
I mean this purse that just fell out of your locker. When did Debbie Summers' initials get to be M.B.?
What are you talking about, Donna?
Just this. The initials M.B., Margie Briscoe. Her purse was reported stolen today.
Are you saying I stole it?
Oh, no. It just walked into your locker. I'll bet Mr. Anders would like to hear your explanation.
Mr. Anders? But what for?
You'll find out. There's Mrs. Baxter. Mrs. Baxter, can you come here, please?
Yes, what is it, Donna?
Debbie Summers had Margie Briscoe's stolen purse.
She did? Where did this come from?
I don't know, Mrs. Baxter. It was just there, and it just fell out of my locker.
Come now, Debbie, you should have a better explanation than that.
But I'm not lying, Mrs. Baxter.
Maybe we'd better go have a talk with Mr. Anders and see what he has to say.
Debbie Summers, who'd ever think you'd stoop to something like this?
I didn't, honest. I just didn't. Oh, Mom.
Debbie, what's happened?
Oh, Margie Briscoe's purse was stolen today with $10 and a cameo ring in it.
But why let something like that upset you, dear?
Because after school today, it fell out of my locker, and Donna Pinnard saw it.
Well, you returned it to Marge, didn't you?
Oh, Mom, it's not so simple as that. The money and the ring were gone, and before I knew what was happening...
Oh, Debbie.
They think I stole it.
Debbie, dry your eyes on my handkerchief. Now, don't worry. We'll find out what really happened, and everything will be all right.
But that's just it. The purse was in my locker, and I don't know how it got there.
Well, surely they know you wouldn't steal somebody else's money.
Donna Pinnard says I did. Mrs. Baxter made me go down to Mr. Anders' office, and he even thinks I did. He says he's going to call Dad in the morning.
Maybe I'd better telephone your father right now and see what he wants done. We've got to get to the bottom of this.
I came as soon as I could. How's Deb?
Well, pretty well, considering. She's trying to do some homework right now.
Well, do you know what happened?
Well, Debbie can tell you better than I, but it seems Margie Briscoe lost $10 in a cameo ring, and Debbie's a suspect.
Well, did the school call?
No, but Debbie said Mr. Anders would call in the morning.
Well, maybe we'd do best going to see him instead.
You don't really think that anyone would really believe that Debbie...
Stole something? Of course not. That girl has been brought up with sound Bible principles. She'd hardly take a glass of milk from the refrigerator without asking, much less somebody's purse.
Still, I'm worried for her. The circumstances look so bad.
Did you hear what they're trying to pull on Debbie?
Your mother and I were just discussing it.
Excuse me, Dad, but I just saw Debbie, and would I like to find the one who planted that purse.
Hold on just a second, Dave. There's no need to get angry. We don't even have all the facts yet.
Well, she's my sister and your daughter. Well, that should be fact enough.
Now, Dave, I love Debbie just as much as you do, but we can't say she's right just for that.
Well, listen, Dad. You've brought Debbie up to respect everybody's property rights and...
And I'm convinced she does because I know my daughter, not just because she is my daughter.
But Mr. Anders said...
That he would call me in the morning. Now, that's all we know he said for sure.
But, Dad...
You know, son, when something like this happens, I try to make myself keep one of the Bible Proverbs in mind.
You do?
Yes.
You want this Bible, Joe?
Thanks, Fran. Now, here it is. Proverbs 18:13. You read this, Dave.
It says, when anyone is replying to a matter before he hears it, that is foolishness on his part and a humiliation.
Now, figure it out, Dave. If you decide the principal's entirely wrong before you hear his side...
Yes, it's foolishness on my part. But still, Dad, you're not going to let him say...
Now, what did you just read?
Well, not to reply to a matter before you hear it.
So I'm going to let him say what he has to say. Then maybe we can get the facts and clear the whole matter up.
I guess that makes sense. But I know Debbie, and I know she wouldn't steal.
And because we know her so well, your mother and I are going with her to see Mr. Anders tomorrow. I'll get this cleared up.
I'm sure glad to hear that.
Well, now maybe I can call her down for supper. It wouldn't hurt her to get cheered up a little.
That's a good idea.
Oh, Daddy, I'm scared.
Frankly, I'm a little worried too, Joe.
Now, let's just wait until we talk to him before we get too scared or worried. Now, Deb, can you show us his office?
Here it is. This is Mr. Anders' secretary, Miss Fowler.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. My name is Joe Summers. This is my wife, Fran.
How do you do?
May I help you?
We'd like to see Mr. Anders if we could.
Oh, yes, Mr. Summers. I think he had intended to call you this morning.
I thought it might be easier if we talked face to face.
Of course. Just a minute, and I'll tell him you're here. Mr. and Mrs. Summers, Mr. Anders will see you now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleased to see you, Mr. Summers. Mrs. Summers. Won't you both sit down?
Thank you. I wanted to...
I think I know, Mr. Summers. It's relative to this unfortunate business with
That's
Debbie.
right. I feel we should be able to...
I assure you, nobody has to get angry or upset about this, Mr. Summers. But we have to face the fact. The purse was in Debbie's locker. The cameo ring and money are missing.
Well, excuse me, Mr. Anders, but neither of us is angry. We're convinced there's some sort of misunderstanding here.
Well, what we know is this, Mr. Summers. Yesterday, Margie Briscoe reported her purse missing from Jim with $10 and a cameo ring in it. After school, another girl saw it fall out of your daughter's locker. The purse was intact except for the money and ring.
Well, is there the possibility someone could have put it in the locker?
I don't know. Every locker has an individual lock on it.
And I always keep it locked, Daddy.
You've never reported trouble with Debbie before, Mr. Anders.
That's the thing. Debbie's always been such a model student. But, Mr. Summers, the temptation can get the better of anybody.
But I didn't take it. I didn't.
We know you and we believe you, Debbie, but we have to prove you didn't.
Well, could I perhaps talk to the people who were involved in this?
Certainly. Miss Fowler, would you please see if Mrs. Baxter and Margie Briscoe can come in?
Right away, Mr. Anders.
Margie, Mr. and Mrs. Summers are very concerned about your missing money and ring.
Well, like I told you, I put my purse in my gym locker during fourth period gym. And when I came back at the end of the period, it was gone.
Had you locked it?
Well, no, but I don't lock it all the time. I mean, I usually don't have anything much to take.
Well, did you tell anybody that your purse was stolen?
Just the gym teacher and Mr. Anders. He told me not to say anything till he'd checked it out.
I see.
You know, I like Debbie and all of that, Mr. Summers, but the purse was found in her locker.
Mrs. Baxter, you're the one who brought Debbie into my office yesterday afternoon.
That's right. I happened to be passing by in the hall after school when Donna Pinnard called me over. She said Margie Briscoe had reported her purse missing and that the purse had fallen out of Debbie's locker.
Well, isn't Debbie in one of your classes, Mrs. Baxter?
Yes, she is, Mr. Summers. Fourth period, isn't it, Debbie?
Yes, Mrs. Baxter.
Was she in class with you yesterday, Mrs. Baxter?
Yes, she was.
Well, do you happen to remember if she left the class at any time, for any reason?
Well, now, let me see. She was really busy yesterday. She baked up a dozen chocolate eclairs. She hardly budged from her stove the whole period. In fact, it ran her late cleaning up. Then she ran to the gym, which is just across the hall.
Well, thank you very much, Mrs. Baxter.
I don't know, Mr. Summers. Maybe we should just forget the money in the ring. If the Briscoes want the money, you could just pay it. And as for the ring, well...
That would be just as good as saying she stole it, Mr. Anders.
You're assuming she didn't.
Mr. Anders, I don't say that just because she's my daughter. I know her, and I know she didn't take it.
Okay. Well, how do you know she didn't take it? And who did?
Well, first of all, if she didn't take it, she must have left the locker open at some point in the day. Debbie?
Yes, Dad?
Would you think hard over the whole day yesterday? Are you completely sure your locker was locked all day?
Well...
Now think, period by period.
Wait a minute. I rushed to get to home ec class 4th period. Since my locker's right next to the class, I didn't think it'd hurt to leave it open. I was so rushed.
And what period did Margie Briscoe say she had Jim?
4th period, I think.
And when was her purse stolen?
Jim, 4th period.
But Debbie was in her home ec class all of 4th period.
So she couldn't have stolen the purse. But how did it get in her locker?
Well, remember, her locker was open. And I did notice Margie said she had only told you and her gym teacher about the missing purse, yet Mrs. Baxter said Donna Pinnard knew that it had been reported. Would you have told her?
Not at all, nor would Miss Rogers, the gym teacher. You know, it might just be worthwhile to see what Donna was up to 4th period yesterday. One thing for sure, though, it couldn't have been Debbie.
Oh, Dad, I'm so happy.
Well, you should be. And, Mr. Summers, it appears your faith in your daughter was vindicated.
Well, you see, Mr. Anders, Joe and I have brought Debbie up to respect what belongs to others, and we've made a practice of Bible principles part of her training.
And all of her life, everything she's ever done has shown she really believes and practices what she's been taught.
Well, that sure makes your family a rarity, Mr. Summers, believe me. Now that we've gotten your Debbie cleared, I'd better let her get to class.
Why, Mr. Anders, would you like to come in?
No, thanks. I'm just on my way home. I only wanted to pass by and tell you we found the missing ring.
You did?
Yes, we checked where Donna Pinnard had been 4th period that day. It seems she had cut class. And when we questioned her closely about it, she turned up the ring.
And Debbie's locker?
Well, it just happened to be a convenient place to get rid of the evidence. Shifting the blame to Debbie was part of it. But you know, Mr. Summers...
Yes?
If you didn't have as much self-control and confidence in your daughter's training as you had, well, I'm almost sure I would have held her for guilty.
Well, it sure sets my mind at rest to hear the whole thing settled.
Mr. Summers, I'd like to say it puts my mind at rest to know that there are still fathers like you around. A good day, Mr. Summers.
Good day, Mr. Anders.
If a father is wise, the confidence he has in his child will not be based purely or entirely on blood ties. It will be the result of the father's knowing his child well and the confidence that he has in the right training he has given him.